August 1st, 2008. On K2, the second highest mountain on Earth, but by far the most dangerous, conditions were perfect. After weeks of waiting, around 30 climbers from all over the world prepared for a summit push. They had good weather, solid coordination, and high hopes. But within just 24 hours, 11 of them would be dead. What happened wasn't the result of a single mistake, but a chain reaction of delays, miscommunications, technical failures, and bad luck. As night fell, rope lines were cut, climbers went missing, and deadly avalanches swept across the mountain. This is the story of the 2008 K2 disaster, one of the worst tragedies in mountaineering history. A story of ambition, survival, and the brutal cost of climbing the world's most unforgiving peak. K2, the Savage Mountain. Towering at over 8,600 meters, it's deadlier than Everest, with a fatality rate 5 times higher. In 2008, more than 30 climbers from around the world gathered on its slopes, ready to take advantage of a rare and promising weather window. After weeks of waiting at high altitude, the mood was hopeful. Teams had cooperated to prepare the routes, and a summit push was planned from Camp 4, located 8,000 meters above sea level. But hidden beneath the surface, serious problems were already unfolding. A key rope-fixing team, responsible for securing the most dangerous section of the route, had fallen ill at Camp 2. Without warning, they turned back and took nearly half the summit day ropes with them. The rest of the climbers had no idea. By the time they reached Camp 4 and realized what was missing, it was too late. No one had enough rope to fix the upper sections properly, and precious time was slipping away. This caused major delays just below the most infamous section of the climb, the bottleneck, a 60-degree ice chute that funnels directly under towering, unstable seracs. It's a place where even a small mistake can be fatal. And now, with over 30 climbers on the same route, delays meant danger. The perfect storm was forming: missing ropes, miscommunication, and a massive traffic jam in one of the deadliest spots on the mountain. As dawn broke on August 1st, climbers began moving up from Camp 4 into the bottleneck, a steep, narrow couloir of snow and ice that slices beneath massive, overhanging seracs. But progress was painfully slow. The missing ropes had caused chaos. Hours were lost as climbers tried to fix lines that should have been ready the night before. Some tried to move without ropes, others waited in freezing winds, exposed to the dangers above. A few decided to turn back, exhausted and aware of the risks. But most pushed forward, driven by ambition, adrenaline, and months of preparation. Then, the first tragedy struck. Serbian climber Dren Mandic fell while moving through the bottleneck. He had unclipped from the fixed rope, possibly to adjust his gear, and slipped. Witnesses saw him tumble down the mountain. He briefly sat up and waved, but by the time help reached him, he was gone. Despite the warning, the line of climbers continued. Norwegian Rolf Bay, struggling with a faulty oxygen system, pressed on with his teammates Cecilia Skog and Lars Nesse. Conditions were calm, but time was slipping away. And at over 8,300 meters, every minute mattered. By late afternoon, many climbers were still far below the summit, dangerously late. Yet against the odds, Cecilia and Lars became the first Norwegians ever to stand on the summit of K2. It was around 5:30 p.m., hours later than planned. Rolf, out of oxygen but determined to support his team, turned back just after reaching the top of the serac. What should have been a moment of triumph was now shadowed by fatigue, low supplies, and a long, dangerous descent in failing light. And the worst was still to come. As night fell over K2, the descent began. Cecilia Skog, Lars Nesse, and Rolf Bay were making their way down the bottleneck. They were tired but focused, carefully rappelling down steep ice, their headlamps glowing in the dark. Then, disaster struck. Without warning, a massive serac high above them collapsed. A thunderous crack echoed through the mountain, followed by an avalanche of ice. Rolf Bay was leading the way across the traverse when the serac gave way. He was swept off the mountain in an instant. The fixed ropes he was clipped to were ripped from the slope, severed by the force of the icefall. Cecilia and Lars were just meters behind. There was no time to grieve. With the ropes destroyed, Cecilia and Lars were now stranded above one of the most dangerous sections of the climb, alone, in the dark, with nothing but a thin emergency rope. But they kept moving. Carefully, they improvised rappels, using their own safety lines to downclimb the exposed ice. It was slow, nerve-wracking work, but eventually, they made it back to Camp 4. Rolf was gone, and many more were still high on the mountain, unaware that the descent route had just been destroyed. The real crisis was only beginning. Above 8,300 meters in the death zone, climbers were scattered, disoriented, exhausted, and now without a safe way down. The fixed ropes were gone. The route was invisible in the dark, and the cold was setting in fast. Some, unable to find the descent line, dug into the snow to wait out the night, bivouacking at extreme altitude without tents, sleeping bags, or oxygen. For most, it was a death sentence. Others pressed on, trying to help. Irish climber Gerard McDonald and Italian Marco Confortola stayed behind to assist 3 Korean climbers who had become tangled in ropes near the top of the traverse. The Koreans were dangling, helpless. Jumich Bote, a Sherpa, may have stayed with them too. For hours, Gerard and Marco worked to help, in total darkness, battling cold and exhaustion. Meanwhile, further down the route, French climber Hugues Dobereid slipped and fell to his death during the descent. His Pakistani teammate Karim Meherban vanished, never seen again. By dawn, the mountain was a battlefield of survival. And then, another avalanche. Just as the sun rose, the Seracs released again. A wall of ice swept through the bottleneck. Gerard McDonald and the 3 Koreans were caught in it, all of them killed instantly. Jumik Boat was likely taken too. Marco survived, barely, making it below the bottleneck before collapsing from frostbite and exhaustion. By now, 8 climbers were dead, and several others were still unaccounted for. It was no longer a summit day. It was a rescue mission, unfolding too late. The aftermath. By August 3rd, the full scope of the disaster had become painfully clear. 11 climbers were dead, some had fallen, others froze to death after being stranded overnight. And many, like Rolf Bay, Gerard McDonald, and the Korean climbers, were taken by avalanches they never saw coming. Survivors limped down the mountain, some snowblind, some frostbitten, all changed forever. The tragedy exposed the brutal reality of K2. It's not just the altitude or the terrain, it's the thin margin for error, the lack of coordination between teams, the dangers of crowding a narrow route with too many climbers, and the deadly gamble of pushing for the summit too late in the day. For many, the 2008 disaster was a wake-up call. What do you think? Was this tragedy preventable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're interested in more real mountaineering stories, subscribe and hit the bell icon. In our next episode, we'll be diving into another infamous event. Until then, stay curious, stay safe.